Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by the Adam Meakin, Refracted Curvature, Chocolate Sane, 10th Man, Neil, Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Hello. Hey, good morning.
Everyone.
Oh, good to have
Morning,
you.
guys.
Let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle from a curved baseline?
No, it's not possible. There's 3 straight lines, and you need at least 2 straight lines, but a third one then to make the opposite of the right angle triangle for elevation angles. So no, you can't do that from a baseline that's curved.
Shout out to Godzilla37
just-
for hitting the super chat as soon as the show started. So let's just read it out. Bear with me 1 second, chaps. I showed up early for once and you were late. I want my money back. Why are you giving me money then? Yeah, thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
If there was,
if you
first
got
one.
a boat disappearing in the distance, I could sell you one.
Well, it would contradict the first question if there was.
They're saying if there was Earth curve, you wouldn't be able to acquire an elevation angle. That's right.
Yeah, but the first question was, can you get an elevation angle off a curved baseline, right? But
Yep.
The answer is no.
the guys that are arguing with us, they're putting an imaginary horizontal plane on top of a ball. That doesn't really work out. Because what do you need the ball for then?
They don't. It's redundant. It's not even used in the process. They just need some word that justifies using a flat plane but still having a spherical belief attached to it. And that word is tangent. Meanwhile, Black Swan.
Oh, so since they're doing it on a flat plane, it's not the plane that's imaginary, it's the ball underneath. Isn't that cute? We just imagine it's there. That's great.
That's right. Celestial navigation deals with moving around on the surface of Earth. Meanwhile, when ballers try and justify the method that they superimpose onto flat Earth as actually just celestial navigation, they say it has no relation to the ground when they do it. And that is true. When they do their version of celestial navigation, which they cannot acquire elevation angles from, it's in no relation to the ground, even though that's the very purpose of the process, to move around on the ground. They just can't do that on a sphere. Any evidence?
I caught there was some quote or something from some baller. I missed Ball Busters the other day, but there was some quote, something about when ballers are talking about this, you know what I'm talking about?
Talking about
Ballers
Ruhif
talking
saying...
about this.
You're talking about Ruhif specifically saying this has nothing to do with the ground. When we do it, it doesn't bear any relation to the ground, like it's a defence or an attack on us to say that. And we're like, yeah, that's right.
I'll read it, mate.
Please read it out.
That's the concession.
Question for today, and I'll put the ballers in. Do flat earthers understand that when ballers use the term horizontal plane, ballers are talking about elevation angle, when ballers are talking about elevation angles, that they are not talking about the surface of the Earth? bit of a cock up that reading. Sorry about that, but I've had another 20 messages which I'll try and get through. I've not read them yet. In response to that, because Glenn did
20
contact
messages from Ruhif. Share your pain.
me. He said, not spoke to you in a while. I said, well, thanks for asking. Just checking I'm all right. So he was just having a few points. So I said, I did address your points on Ball Busters on Saturday. So have a watch and get back to me. And that's what I've got to read now. So I'll have a read and see if there's anything to come back. But yeah, that was the point of Rufy's discussion. Do you understand that when we use the term horizontal plane, when we are talking about elevation angles, that we are not talking about the surface of the Earth? So,
Okay, so when we, flat earthers, talk about elevation angles, in conjunction with celestial navigation, who use elevation angles, we, flat earthers and celestial navigators, are definitely talking about the surface of the Earth. When a ball-believing fundy clown is talking about elevation angles, they are not talking about the surface of their ball Earth fantasy. Just so we're all clear. Flat Earthers definitely talking about the process that uses the ground. Ball Earthers not talking about the ground, even though that's what you're actually navigating on. Just so we're all clear.
I was about to say, isn't the definition of navigation finding your way on the ground?
Not if you're a baller, because their ground isn't in relation to the actual tangent plane surface that you're navigating on. So for them, no.
Not if you're roofie, because definitions are meaningless.
Yeah, and it's no Atmo day. So is refracted.
Yeah, that's correct. Rufy
Yes.
doesn't have a geometric tangent point for a horizon to do his corrective mathematics and claim a tangent plane from. That's right. What is it, no Atmo day?
Well, there goes
But-
longitude and latitude because you can't get a fix anymore.
But they're actually taking elevation angles that can be measured, right? So they have to put themselves on a horizontal plane while simultaneously telling us that we're all crazy because we believe it's a horizontal plane. But they put themselves there in order to get elevation angles and then tell us that we're not talking about the ball surface of Earth.
No, they're not taking
Wow.
any elevation angles.
No, you can't get
No.
an elevation angle from a curved baseline.
No, that's what I'm saying. They're putting themselves on a horizontal plane because why? I'm directing this at the quote. Why would you be talking about a horizontal plane that doesn't exist? Because according to them, it doesn't exist. But they put this there on top of a ball in order to get elevation angles, and then tell
Yes.
us that they're not talking about the sphere Earth.
Yes.
What?
Yes. Yes, they're retarded.
Yes,
Yes, Dunning-Kruger retards. That's what they are.
yes, they
Yes.
think that's an attack. They think that that's somehow a rebuttal. When we're talking about celestial navigation, it's use of flat baselines and elevation angles and the surface that you're navigating on. Their response is to say, when we talk about our celestial navigation, which bears no relation to actual celestial navigation, we, the ball-believing idiots, are not talking about the ground.
Okay.
Is that it for that one?
Any
well,
evidence?
I've got
Did
one
we
for
get
you,
through?
Huey.
Did we get through housekeeping?
That was the second question.
Sorry. Can I have a few words after housekeeping, please? I'd like to put in an appointment, to have a few words.
If this is about me believing that everybody's lying, then I don't want to hear it.
Negative.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
So, any evidence of a cartoon in the middle of another cartoon? No.
Well, I like that order because it comes after their, if they were here and actually arguing their case, which they're not, they'd start going to the centre of their presupposed spherical Earth and a equatorial plane, would they not? Hence, centre of the sphere Earth, molten iron core seems to be the most logical question to follow that. It's part of their paradigm, and presumably, if there was a funder here, like I say, answering that question, describing how the angles all move parallel to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth so you can get an elevation angle off an equatorial plane, then we'd be asking, well, have you ever been to the centre of Earth? Have you seen the molten iron core? when you beg the question of a radius? Any evidence the R value, Earth radius?
Sort of. Have we got all new slideshows, Nathan? You've been working hard. I'm
I have.
totally distracted.
Yes, I did work very hard yesterday producing a new slide reel, because I don't know if it's just because I've moved up to 1080p 60 rather than 30. Although when I did that, it didn't make any difference. Now, maybe it's just because my computer's 6 or 7 years old. It started to do strange things, screen tearing and flashing and stuff, which it wasn't doing before. But there we go. I thought maybe it was the slideshow, so I updated it, which took hours. And it's still doing exactly the same thing, so it wasn't that either. Anyway, yes, enjoy my new slideshow.
Well, that's what I was doing. Sorry to distract, but no evidence at all.
We can, once the housekeeping gets through, we can, discuss whatever slides are on screen. There's 2 hours of them. There was only an hour on the old reel, so I've done a lot of work. Not that anybody would have necessarily cared if you hadn't mentioned it. But moving on.
They're newer. They're on topic. There's some funny ones. They're quite. You made them all. I like that bendy one with Simon Dan.
Yes, I did make them all. So they're like 2 layers before a thumbnail. So obviously, as I build up a thumbnail, I'll build it up in layers, and then when I get to sort of layer 3, I'll stop, save it, and then that becomes a screenshot without any writing on, if that makes sense. So yeah, a lot of them are just screenshots of thumbnails without the writing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Scientific evidence of gravity? Anybody at all?
No, that's the question that 10th man should have asked me. Should ask me for a hypothesis and hypothesis test to adhere to the scientific method for gravity.
Well, Nathan really started the show, didn't he, Brian? As you were about.
Yeah. That would have ended me in a flash. I would have had nothing. Insults. That's all I would have had.
I don't think I followed that conversation, Brian. Can you explain what you mean?
Yeah, I was playing baller for 10th, and 10th was having a debate with me as me playing baller, and he was looking for the reason, or what's my excuse for how the gas pressure stays connected to our ball, and I said gravity. Then he asked me to what's gravity? I said it's what keeps the gas to the ball, right? And he says, but is it a force? It manifests as a force. He said, but is it a force? Well, it behaves as a force. This is where I was going. No straight answer. And so I was just saying that if you started the show then, before he got his next question out, but what he should have asked me is, have you a hypothesis test and a valid hypothesis and hypothesis test that adhere to a scientific method from either Isaac Newton or Albert Einstein to support this claim? And that would have ended me straight away.
Coincidentally, how it ended for that guy who came in to try and claim Bitcoin middle of last week. So if you're not a member, you can now watch that pre-show because it came out yesterday on my second channel, Nathan Oakley channel. But in my humble opinion, the pre-show, when that guy first got there, was better because his opener was to ask me if I received his experiment that he'd sent to Dave Weiss. So literally the first thing that was out of his mouth was challenged. On the basis of it wasn't experiment, it wasn't anything scientific.
He thought he had one, though.
Yeah, and then you missed the part where he held up 2 flat Earth models and said one of them proves a globe.
Geez, you're worse than me, John.
When you've got somebody that
Well,
doesn't...
even if...
Go on.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, when you've got somebody that doesn't understand the fallacy, when you've got somebody that doesn't understand the fallacy, and you're not only saying, well, that's a reification fallacy, or that's a false dichotomy fallacy, you have to, I was having to say, that's a false dichotomy fallacy, which means you've got one version and another, I had to break it down for him on every single occasion. So when it gets to, well, you're using the equatorial plane and the dome of the heavens, if you will, to then derive spherical radii and then imply, by way of begging the question, that you've got a sphere. It's actually a flat Earth model. Now, yeah, don't get me wrong, that's reasonably concise. Would, John, I'm asking you, not QE, would he have understood that if I'd have put that to him in the moment?
No, he would have went, what? That's impossible on a flat Earth.
He'd have told me I hadn't addressed his claim, or something to that effect.
But it's still funny, though, that they're using a flat Earth model as their model, not realizing it's a flat Earth model.
We've only found that out in the last few months, though, haven't we, really?
Yeah, that's why it's funny.
Yeah, funny for us. Very much so. Very amusing. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Sorry, Nathan. I was just going to say before, even if they did have anything scientific evidence or proof or whatever, to them, science doesn't prove anything anyway. So, what is it worth then?
Okay, I have to break that down now. They've said it. Yeah, what they think is science isn't. I.e., they don't have any cause and effect relationships validated by scientific experimentation based on a hypothesis. They don't have that. They still say science, but what they actually have isn't that. Now, any claim of science that doesn't have that methodology attached to it is automatically pseudoscience. So when they say science doesn't prove things, what they actually mean, paraphrasing them when they don't understand what they actually mean because they don't know what science is, what they actually mean is our pseudoscience, we claimed as science, proves nothing. And they'd be correct. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Sorry for the background noise, by the way. My wife was making me drinks as I was waylaid.
There is no two-way speed of light calculation, and that's what they need to gain the distance to their heliocentric sun. Well, sorry, that's not true. Sorry, 1 second. So, I may have said that wrong. There is a calculation, but there is no two-way speed of light measurement because there was no one-way speed of light measurement. There's no speed of light measurement whatsoever. You can take the 671 million miles an hour, that is the two-way speed of light calculation, and you can half it and quarter it. And for anybody using radar or anything else, it'll make absolutely no difference whatsoever because it's just a calculation.
Well, even if you give them that speed of light, they'll still need an angle to the sun to calculate the distance.
Excellent. Exactly.
For someone who might not understand, could you elaborate when you say it's not a measurement, it's a calculation?
Yeah, it was never measured. There's no measurement of what people know as the speed of light. It's a two-way speed of light calculation. There is no one-way measurement, and there probably will never be. Nobody ever measured the speed of light. But there's a claim that there's a two-way measurement that isn't a measurement. It's only a calculation. It's based on 4 heliocentric pre-assumptions and 2 averages. So how could it be a measurement if it's based on 2 averages? One of those averages is the average distance of a globe Earth to its own heliocentric sun over the course of 12 months. So they'd have to start by proving a radius value measurement, actually measuring a radius value for a globe Earth, a dual radii, before they could even ever talk about their two-way speed of light calculation.
Could you not get that by flat Earth elevation angle measurements, though, Brian?
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's where they got it. They get their radii calculations, because that's another calculation, not their radii is another calculation, not a measurement. They get them by back engineering from flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No axis, no radius, no axis.
Not in aerospace.
Would have to be a ball first before it's a spinning one.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Wait, I
That
just
would
want to point.
debunk it.
Sorry, I just want to point something out about the axial rotation. You know how they say, "Oh, well, the sun's a ball, the moon's a ball, so the Earth must be a ball." Well, the sun doesn't spin, the moon doesn't spin, so why does Earth spin?
Have they proven that they're balls?
It's kind of non sequitur. You're using their non sequitur against them, which I get. You're saying, well, if you say Earth's a sphere and the moon's a sphere and the sun's a sphere, and you claim that the sun and Earth and moon all should therefore rotate, I can show that the moon doesn't. Therefore, there is libration, though. I might add that.
Though in their model, it is rotating. It's just one of those lucky coincidences that the rate of rotation means that its face always stays facing to the Earth, but it is rotating to maintain that front face.
Well, that might be the case. My point was to say
their
that
model.
it's non sequitur, isn't it? Because you wouldn't necessarily try and justify the claim that Earth's a sphere because there's lights in the sky. You just say, well, that's non sequitur. It doesn't translate that because you see lights in the sky. If you're looking up and you see a load of treetops because you're in a forest, does that mean you're a bush? No, it doesn't. So it's non sequitur to begin with. You don't have to justify it afterwards. Although, fair enough, Adam.
They only make claims that all the lights in the sky are spheres as well. They haven't proven any of that.
But even if they had, again, what would it prove in relation to the ground I'm standing on? If the moon is spherical or is not spherical, what, pray tell, difference does that make?
Yeah, it's back to
No
the
difference.
billiard ball.
Zero. It was just a non sequitur question.
It's a good question. I'm not knocking you.
Well,
Well,
because it tricked me. It tricked me, didn't it? I want to answer it with a bit of detail, and the detail's not relevant because the detail, as you say, is non sequitur to the assumption or what the question's trying to prove.
This is
But
what you
it's
get here.
tempting to get pulled in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it happens because it means that, no offence to you, Adam, people can see you fall into that trap and then appreciate that in debate and discussion they don't have to do that. The same applied. I'm typically more like this when somebody comes in asking for Bitcoin or trying to claim Bitcoin from David Weiss. I don't give them an inch in terms of any discussion in regards to our claims, what we say Earth should be, how it should work, or what proves it. Now, don't get me wrong, I dropped in one or two very, very, very concise proofs of flat Earth during the discussion, but on the whole, I'm not going to be justifying what a hypothesis is. I'm not going to justify what science is. I'm not going to justify anything about my model and what I claim it is or isn't. Why would I? There is no reason to unless I've made a claim. But in most instances, when the ball earthers come along and fail in their first attempt to claim something, they'll try and push it on you. Well, how do you explain it then? Well, did I make a claim about it? Why have I suddenly got to justify this? Or if it's the case that they've put together a crazy notion which is flawed in the first instance, and then affirmed the consequent and said, well, that proves a sphere, you've got to pick apart their first crazy notion, or justify how it works on a sphere, or on a flat plane. No, you don't. Just show how it's flawed, and then stop. Because if you carry on and say, well, actually, it seems to look like this, and therefore I can infer, they'll just pick that apart, and there really isn't any need to. Almost 100 people watching, so please share the show. The only reason there's 100 people watching is because the people in the live stream right now have shared the show. Smash that share button. So please do so if you've not done so already. Really appreciate it. Thanks in advance for smashing the share button. So yeah, so I've updated the slides to stuff that's more relevant. So I think I made those slides shortly after we'd concluded the Isle of Man discussion. So there was a lot of stuff in relation to that, which is fine. But we've progressed, the arguments have moved on quite considerably since that time. And I was finding that there was only 2 or 3 slides that I was pausing on each time, if needed. Whereas now a lot of them are relevant to the current discussion. So I might find myself actually pausing some of these 2 hours worth of slides that I've now got running by as the show progresses to make points. And it'll be more likely that there'll be the right slide at the right moment, coincidentally, when it's being discussed.
Please tell me you threw Dingleberry Earth in there.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I haven't labelled it as such, but yeah, there's a few tangent planes with Dingleberry Earth dangling below it as slides, yes.
Cool. Thank you.
done with housekeeping yet?
I think I am. What did I
Did
miss?
you remember I asked you for a few words
After housekeeping.
after housekeeping? Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
wait.
Well, we've concluded housekeeping now. That was the end. I have answered every question. Hey, Arwin.
So I can go?
Well, you can. I just want to introduce Arwin to make sure the interruptions are, introduced.
Yeah, right.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Arwin. Go ahead, QE.
All right. So I don't know how many times I've elbowed my way in, into the beginning of the show. It's in the high hundreds, right? I finally get in there. I'm going to try to be as concise as possible, right? And I'm discussing a point, and then all of a sudden, there's no response. I think everyone's astounded, at the brilliance. But now I'm on mute because the show's starting.
Oh, well, don't.
I can't tell you how many times that's happened.
Well, don't let
That's
the
number one.
introduction to a live show and introduction to a live audience stop you making a great point. I mean, how dare I?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So connected with that was this morning. It happened again. So I elbow my way in. You know how difficult it is getting in here, right? So I elbowed my way in to talk about extremists. He was chat skanking. And this is what he said before he deafened himself and left, although he's in here right now. So this is what he chat skanked. Listen to this. An anticyclonic storm is a high-pressure system surrounded by low pressure. A hurricane is a low-pressure system surrounded by high pressure. The fact that both types of storms spin different directions is consistent with Coriolis and does not disprove Coriolis in any way. Now, the numpty dipshit right here just went on deafen and mute. Now, before I kick his ass out of here, probably permanently, I wanted to have you
Pull that apart.
sorry, hold on. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Mike's messing up.
Yeah, that's okay. So Coriolis is always described from the observer's reference frame. So unless he's saying that unless he's Dorothy whirling around in the hurricane, then this isn't an example of Coriolis, nor does it prove or disprove Coriolis, because it isn't Coriolis. Like I say, unless you're in the hurricane. I.e., if you're turning around on a turning reference frame that is the hurricane, and you look at a lamppost that's concreted into the ground and go, oh, wow, it's coming towards me at a rate of... Oh, no, it's gone. Oh, it's coming towards me at a rate of knots again. Oh, no, it's gone. That's the not actual drift known as Coriolis effect, observed from the turning reference frame of the hurricane. But unless you're in the hurricane, it's got nothing to do with Coriolis at all.
The Coriolis effect doesn't cause anything. There's no cyclones or hurricanes or any rest of it being caused by Coriolis.
No, it's an effect.
It doesn't cause things. Yeah.
Not only is it an effect, it's an
Unless,
apparent
of course,
effect.
things can be caused by an illusion.
Yeah, it's an illusion. It's an apparent effect, an apparent deviation. I.e., my lamppost example, it seems like the lamppost is coming towards your vantage point when I say, oh, no, it's coming towards me. It isn't really, though, is it? Lampposts don't move. They're concreted into the ground. So when you see that lamppost drift towards you, it's not really drifting at all. It's you moving on a rotating platform. Likewise, if you're on a roundabout and you throw a ball up in the air, from your vantage point, it looks like it curves away from you. It doesn't really, it just goes up in the air, but you're spinning beneath it, so it looks like it drifts. That's Coriolis. If that was relatable to Earth, it wouldn't have anything to do with cyclones or drains or any of that. It would be things not attached to the turning reference frame claimed to be Earth, seeming to drift as you turn beneath them. So when Neil deGrasse Tyson says a football drifted through the goal, he's detailing you watching the ball from the stands seem to curve through the goal. Reality would, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, dictate that it's actually the goalpost moving under the ball, for you to see it seem to drift. But because you're attached to the same reference frames as the goalposts, you see the ball appear to drift, because Earth turned beneath it. That's the claim. But that would mean that a hot air balloon would go into the air and Earth would turn beneath it, for you to see it seem to drift. Or an aeroplane would take off from the ground and you'd watch it drift from your vantage point, turning beneath it. And if you're turning beneath it to see it drift, it means your aeroplane's got Earth turning beneath it. And that would shorten flight times. A flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles would take about an hour and a half instead of about 4.5, 5 hours. That doesn't happen. Earth isn't turning underneath anything. There is no examples of Earth-based Coriolis effect because we don't see anything drift. Nothing's drifting.
I thought their claim was that the air was in lockstep with this rotation anyway. So if it was in lockstep, why would it cause any shear forces or circulatory forces if it's in lockstep?
It's in lockstep. It's only one reference frame. One reference frame.
That's what they say. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So therefore, how would it? Therefore, if it's in both are within the same reference frame as they claim, then there can't be any effect generated by the differential of the two things if they aren't differentiated.
Well, unless it's being pulled, and then there can be like secondary effects. Like even though it's moving in lockstep with the rotation of ball Earth, then still it's going to be like pulled, and you're going to have drag effects.
So it's not in lockstep.
Wrong.
Then.
Both wrong. Neither Coriolis. If it's being dragged along in lockstep, that's one reference frame. Coriolis effect is two reference frames, you turning beneath another. So one reference frame, all moving together, well, then you won't have Coriolis effect, which is what Globe Earth claims. So that's an anti-flat Earth rebuttal. It's all moving together. So no drift then. Or Arwin saying, well, there's a push or a pull or a force. No, Coriolis is a not actual force, an illusion of a force.
No, we're not talking about that Coriolis effect. We're talking about Globiolis, right?
Brian, you deal with this, Brian.
Yeah, Arwen, Globiolis doesn't exist.
Oh, really? Well, why can't I Google it then?
What?
You're going to find.
What do you mean you can? Hold on, stop. Everyone stop.
No, not literally Globiolis, but when I say Globiolis, it's the Coriolis effect about spinning ball Earth, blah, blah, blah. And there's still a lot of that on the internet.
No,
I call that.
No, you know what it is? For their Globiolis claim, they need to claim the conservation of momentum. Now, notice the way I didn't specify which momentum, because that's what they do. They don't specify which momentum. Because 1 second, so let me finish. This is not me. I'm not making this claim. They don't specify which momentum. Why don't they specify which momentum? Because the momentum they are claiming that is conserved within their Globiolis claim is linear, but it's on a rotating object they are. So that's angular momentum. So the only way to retain angular momentum is to stay physically attached to the rotating object. But they are not claiming angular momentum. They're claiming linear momentum.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. Yeah, but
other than
based on a flat plane.
Makes perfect sense if you're an anti-flat earther trying to defend a flat earther's pointing out that there's no drift. Makes sense to show why there's no drift. Globe Earth claims drift. Arguing about why there isn't any isn't proving Earth has drift and it claims to have it.
Yeah, but I just wanted to say that the linear momentum makes perfect sense, right? Because the entire model is based off a flat plane, right? So it just comes back together, comes full circle over a flat plane.
Excellent proof of a flat plane, then. Besides the fact that Globe Earth claims there's Coriolis, and they claim to demonstrate it with things like footballs, and pendulums, and gyroscopes. They claim drift.
All I hear, I don't think it matters whatever type of momentum they're talking about. What I hear is an excuse as to why we don't see an apparent deviation that is described in their own model as apparent, meaning that we see it.
No, they don't know what the conservation of momentum is. That's why they just say it. They can't tell you which type. How many times have we done this on the show?
Lots.
They don't know what it is either.
Yes, that's correct. They don't know
conservation of linear or angular. They don't know what it is. Yeah, they know to say conservation of momentum.
Yeah, they say it as a rebuttal to us pointing out that there isn't any of the Globe Earth claimed drift. Globe Earth claims there is drift. Anti-flat earthers, our opponents, tell us why we wouldn't expect to see the drift the globe claims. Further to that, you've got people like Simon Dan saying, you and your reference frames are ruined. Look, why would we expect to see the globe claim of 2 reference frames and drift because of it? Earth being one reference frame turning beneath another to see the drift they claim. I'll be told, as a flat earther, my reference frames are ruined. No, Simon Dan. Globe Earth reference frames are ruined because there isn't any demonstrable drift. Me pointing out that there isn't any demonstrable drift isn't me claiming that there should be. It's me debunking that the globe claims there is, and there isn't. Shout out to Al Junkie, who says, let's rather talk about spring and the glorious weather. Okay?
When we...
No,
That's the
gladiolus.
point I was making.
Gladiolus, he said. No.
My
I would love to
resolution's
see
so low.
their proof of Coriolis.
The pretty flowers, Arwin.
Yep. It's a gladiolus flower, which is associated with spring. But I wanted to just put out that maybe they should just call it conservation of stationary momentum.
Conservation
No,
of
does
state.
any-
Hold on. I hate it when Arwin does this because someone else will just ignore him. Right. Conservation of being stationary. Arwin, shut up.
Yes.
It's just irritating.
Stationary momentum. The moment.
Just shut up.
He's saying the
Or-
conservation of the momentum you get when you're stationary. It's just absurd.
Exactly. See, it fits the model perfectly.
You have conserved all your momentum.
It
Not
kind of does,
anything
though.
Still.
Yeah, if 0 is 0, then 0 is conserved 0.
Exactly.
That's El Baltard's IQ. Okay, or you could do this. Be Hillbilly Blue Balls, the redneck retard, aka the photosynthetic redneck, who reads the first sentence of Angular Momentum. Let us not all forget this. He invokes the angular conservation of angular momentum, all the while in the same breath stating there are no inertial reference frames. When the conservation of angular momentum is derived from Newton's third law and is only viable with inertial reference frames. You cannot make this up. Let us not forget this.
This is what happens
Did we
when you've
forget?
got
Yes, we
people
forget.
surrounding you that are tapping you on the back even if you talk complete nonsense. They will pat you on the back and say, good job.
Yep. We're going to deal with another one today on my show, QE's show, at 2 p.m. U.S. Central, and it's 7 p.m. UK because of the time change. We're going to pummel this numpty dipshit Pete, who decided the white knight for Hoymar's drawing. So stay tuned. This is going to be a riot.
Oh, I sent you that.
Exactly what Nathan's talking about.
I sent you that. So I mentioned on yesterday's show that I'd had an increase in subs that I couldn't track down the reason for. And typically I'll start looking for a reason if I see an increase, right? I'm very up on my stats. But I couldn't find one. But in the process of trying to find one, I searched my own name and came across that. And I'm like, well, it's got QE in the title. It's not really addressed to me, but it's come up on a search of my name. So I just clicked it, literally didn't watch any of it, and just immediately posted it to you. So I don't actually know what's in that video. Was it any good?
It's hilarious.
I got 2
dude.
minutes
I
in,
was going to
Nathan.
not watch it, but I got bored. So I started watching it. It's hilarious, man.
Oh, good.
Wait
I'm glad
till
it was
wait
good.
till you see this.
Well, I suspected it would be. Everything's juicy at the moment. I'm just a bit time short. Like, literally, the live show is ending today because I had to do a favour for a friend, and that friend had no concept of time. 20 minutes turned into 45. But that aside, I'm a bit low on time. But it doesn't mean I'm not, while I'm in the process of doing that, which was searching for an answer for why I'd increased in subs in case I had to thank somebody for an advert, I found that. But like I say, I literally didn't have time to watch it. So 1 second, click on it to get the share link, and then off to you it went.
Nathan, he sent it me afterwards. I got 2 minutes in. I had to give QE a ring last night. On this, I've just been reading Roofy's stuff because I told him to go away and watch Ballbusters, and to be fair, he's given me comment as he's clearly watched it all the way through. And he does say here with regards to that, not saying it's incorrect, by the way. It's just an incredibly unintuitive way to draw it. But his first comment is, to be fair, that diagram at 39 minutes is a shit fight. And I mean, yes, and that's being kind to it, I think. Unintuitive, which means to me geometrically incorrect is what he's actually saying on there. But yeah, are we chewing that tonight, John? Yeah.
Chew a little bit of that, spit it out.
As he's going to get a new one ripped, I'll just do the shout out first, actually. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Godzilla37. He says, QE, can you lower your voice? You're scaring the ballers away. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Was I a bit loud?
I don't think he meant in volume. I've got that under control. So we'll give this guy a plug as we're discussing him, and he's going to get his a-hole ripped a new one on QE's channel tonight. I'll even give him a like. So this is, what's his name? Peter with spaces. So check him out. I'll give you a link so you can go and check out his video. Hilarity will ensue, I'm sure.
No, it's just Pete, because Peter's more distinguished. So this is just Pete. You'll see why coming up.
Any particular parts of it you want me to go on to?
You'll ruin it for later.
Oh, okay, no bad. I haven't. I'm just trying to steal your show.
Just trying to steal the thunder a little bit.
Why don't you call him Petey? Petey.
There you go, Petey.
Petey. Okay, I could do that.
Yeah, because then at least it's getting a proper channel name. I mean, purely from a YouTube perspective, I don't want to, decry the guy's shout out. After all, he's gone to the effort of making a video. Takes some effort to do so.
He has been a commentator on my videos, and he made a video. He started making videos on it recently, and he sent one to me, and I haven't watched it. I said I will watch it. He asked me to watch it. I said I would, and I didn't get around to what I was going to. I didn't forget it. I just had other stuff, and then he started giving me a hard time about not watching it. And I said, look, I said I'd watch it when I watch it. You know what I mean? I'm not going. He said, you must be scared. You must be running away from it. No, that's not stupid. It's like nobody's scared of a simple ball video. Yeah. So I watched it, right? I watched it, and in no time flat, I didn't even have to go through all of it. I sent in a comment 4 points that he was completely incorrect on, and he ignored all of them. He didn't reply back that I saw. Just ignored all of them.
Did he tell you that you'd ignored his points?
Yeah, I was supposed to be scared of something that was completely wrong. I didn't even get all the way through it. I was only halfway through it. There was 4 points already completely wrong.
Really quick, Petey's a compliment. I take it back because he's not as smart as the dog in the Little Rascals.
Okie dokie. Obviously, that's worth qualifying. Thank you for doing that, Neil. Shout out to Joe Volcoma. Hopefully I'm not butchering your name, my friend. Great show as always, Nathan, he says, via a super chat. Thank you very much indeed for your support and for the compliment. Really appreciate it. Please share the show.
Why do these people think we are somehow worried or scared of that they have to bring to us?
Projection.
Projecting.
Pure projection.
Exactly.
Go on, Owen. Go on.
No, it's just saying exactly the same thing at the same time. It's projection. It's always projection. It's the first thing they do.
Oh, you are included.
They're purely terrified.
I'm sorry, Neil. Nathan, you are included. Oh my God. Neil, you're done. Thanks. Nathan, you are included. Quantum Eraser, Adam Meakin, Nathan Oakley, and Brian's Logic and pals. That includes you too, Neil, I think. Are having difficulty trying to understand lines. That's he goes on for a little bit more too. So you are involved in this, sir.
Okay, my bad.
My name wasn't mentioned, so I'm safe.
Safe.
No,
you're a pal.
We're pals.
Neither.
So we just need to clear this up. So John and I can, absolve ourselves of the fear we need to, be living in over this then.
No, you cannot.
Oh, I can't. But John can. I see. So I should.
Me too.
Should be living in fear of this now. correct?
You should be trembling as we speak.
Okay, I'll
Hold
write it
on.
down.
He said pals. So that means the rest of us too.
You're not my pal, buddy.
I ain't your pal, friend.
You're not my buddy, friend.
You're not my friend, buddy.
You're not my friend, pal.
Friend.
You're not my pal. You're not my guy, pal.
Okay, guys.
Is he using lines to rope us in?
Look, 10th has actually got an on-topic, unless it's a bloody pun. We'll see. I think 10th's got a point here. Can we all shut up?
Is he using lines to rope us in?
Oh, God. It was a pun. Is he using straight lines? Would have been mildly on topic.
Well, I'm going with celestial navigation because there's knots. You use knots, right?
You want me to finish his little spill beneath? Can I finish the little spill? I want to do it comprehensively. So the whole thing. Would you like me to do that?
Yes, of course. Yes, please.
Yeah. So underneath Petey's video, Quantum Eraser, Adam Meek, and Nathan Oakley, Brian's Logic, and pals are having difficulty trying to understand lines. Talk about train wrecks. None of them understand anything from a drawing somebody produced to help them understand how a sextant would work on a globe. Granted, the Earth's radius was too large, but still, how can the flurfs get this so wrong? I mean, if I was them, I'd dig a huge hole in the ground, climb in, and hope nobody discovers me for the next 100 years. But these guys have no shame, and the grift continues. End of comment.
It ends on mine after for the next 100 years.
Projection.
Where's the grift bit? Is that in a comment?
No, that's
in the comment. It's in the description underneath the train wreck PD's video.
Okay.
Could I sum it up? Could I sum up what the video is without giving away anything?
Oh, don't worry about that. Don't worry about giving anything
I won't
away.
give anything away.
No, don't worry about
what the video is.
Don't rein yourself in, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So QE.
What the video is all about how we don't adhere to Globe Earth's version of celestial navigation because we adhere to actual celestial navigation.
Oh, so it's the usual. He wants to reposition the argument that is actually with celestial navigation. So his banter is actually with celestial navigation.
And geometry, if you look at his diagram. You've got to, as a baller, have a new type of geometry as well, where parallel lines meet.
Why is he using all these parallel lines? Can anyone answer this? Right, these lines are being used for angle measurements and zeniths, right? This square, I'm at, I don't know, 2 minutes 15. And it's a slightly more comprehensive diagram versus the one that he originally was pulling apart on behalf of Hoymar. Well, why is he using any of this? Why isn't he just using the surface?
Because go on, Chocolate.
Oh, I was going to say, that's what I want to know. Why they're not doing that?
Why this elaborate?
Because
why the elaborate methodology of deriving straight lines off to infinity from a ball? Why not just use the ball surface? That's what I'm saying. Why all this?
It's very simple. Yeah, but it's very simple. He's not doing what he should be doing because he doesn't understand what the real thing is. He thinks he understands it because he's been learning it from people like Ruhif. Right? He thinks he understands lots of stuff about celestial navigation and how it works perfectly on a globe and can't work at all on a flat plane, supposedly. He thinks he knows all this stuff, but he doesn't know it. And that's why he's made that video.
I'd like QE to read the part of it where he talked about cartoons or images. What was that part, QE, that he put there?
He says, look, none of them understand anything from a drawing somebody produced to help them understand how a sextant would work on a globe. And I think Brian nailed it. And if you listen to that, that's exactly what it is. It's you don't understand the anti-flat Earth rhetoric. Here, let me describe it. And that's what the diagram is. And that's why we couldn't make sense of it, sadly, because it's nonsensical. Like I said, as Ruhif even admits, it's a shit fest. And that's the reality. What they're trying to do is, look, here, this is how I reconcile it in my head. And when we point out let's say, look, your parallel lines are apparently meeting somewhere, mate, but they're parallel, yeah? Then we're being not helpful, not understanding a diagram that was there to help us understand how a sextant would work on a globe.
Okay, well,
So how a sextant would work on a globe, but it isn't. Back to my original question. This isn't showing how a sextant works on a globe. It's not referencing it to the spherical surface. It's deriving tangent planes from a spherical surface and then not using them for the actual acquisition of the angles. So when he says this is how celestial navigation, that's a well and truly established method, would work on a sphere? No, celestial navigation is what it is and it works on a flat plane. There's no next step needed or done to justify how it could or would work on a sphere. Nor do they derive tangent planes from a sphere. They just measure angles. So their whole shtick of explaining how it could or would work if you take a next step to reify a sphere into existence, that's not how celestial navigation works. And it's not our method. It's just celestial navigation. It doesn't have to be transposed onto a sphere.
Nathan, let me finish. I got 4 pictures and 1 description in Master B. When he said drawings, everything comes from their books. There's nothing in the research of the sextant, and the pictures we have shown, or drawings, whatever you want to call them, came from any other source other than the heliocentric books version of how sextant works. Let me know if, I know Adam's presenting. Do you want him to go first, and I'll follow up with the 4 pictures and 1 description, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, we'll go with Adam first.
I was only putting that up just so it's available on flashing anyway.
Yeah, I think I'd had a version of this up anyway, if you can stop, just because you are giving my audience epilepsy. But yes, if you can go to if you can go to 10th Man's first slide, if you're watching from just 1 second, everyone. Hello, I just need to get some order. If you want to follow along, it's in Skype, so we're in Master B, but I'm on your first slide, 10th.
All right, so here you have a drawing, a picture, whatever you want to call it, of a person on a tangent plane that's in the shape of a disc, and it's got the horizon to the far right marked 180, and if you look to the left, it's 0. That's a straight line. That's the bottom of a protractor. That is a protractor in disguise right there, basically. Now you got zenith at 90, where the protractor would have its 90, and you got the guy right there in the middle, so that's his vertical. And then you've got an angle towards Polaris up from the horizon, because it's a horizontal coordinate system, and it says 40. And the only way they get that is to have that flat baseline. This is from their drawing. This isn't something flat earthers put together. Go to the next slide, please. This is from this, you can see it in the search bar where it's from. The horizontal system. What does the celestial sphere look like when observed from a position on the Earth's surface? ? We ignore any landscape around the observer. So the observer has the impression of being on a flat plane and at the center of a vast hemisphere across which the celestial bodies move. On all sides, the plane stretches out to meet the base of the celestial hemisphere at the horizon. Directly above the observer's head is the zenith, and directly below his feet is another. Directions around the horizon are labeled with the familiar cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. Finally, the line passing through the zenith and the south point on the horizon is known as the observer's meridian. Interesting how they describe what it is on a flat plane, just like the picture showed before. Next slide. So here it is in its full glory with the bottom part added, the dingling, or whatever you want to call it. Here they have to go and get a flat plane somewhere. They can't get it from the surface, so they have to go to the center and slice it in half and say the angle is originating from there. Much like a 2D circle angle originates from the center of a circle.
Disagree, yeah?
Well, I'm not done.
I don't. Well, just on this picture before I move on, I see this one literally still as a celestial sphere, that you're still on a flat surface. The surface has a limitation of the distance of your viewing, so that's why it's on. So the land is limited by the size of the celestial sphere. That's why it looks like a globe, but it's not. The only solid bit is the brown stuff. The rest is just an imaginary sphere, celestial sphere. But it's not. They've not gone to the center of the earth here. This is how it's done, what it is, and how it works with celestial spheres. How it
Yeah, but they're not.
Yeah.
They took liberty here to not show a part that should be there, because you could see the celestial equator, the titled above, and the North Celestial Pole. Okay, they're not showing the North Pole here. They're not showing the equator of the Earth. They're just going right with this image, which isn't showing the exact way. That's why you caught it. Let's go on with more slides.
I think what you're saying is it's not actually the celestial plane, because that would be cutting the globe if it was superimposed along this line, the celestial equator. Whereas what they're doing is they're saying wherever this piece of land is going to be where I chop off a sphere. But Adams jumped in and said, well, no, they haven't, because there is no depiction. So typically when we see a celestial plane depiction, you'll have an extra bit, which is a sphere in the middle. So let's say it comes an inch out from the observer, and they just infer that there's this redundant sphere in the middle, and then the angle goes through that sphere to whatever point you're measuring and along the baseline, like I say, with an extra sphere-y bit around wherever the observer will be, and then you're just claimed to be at the centre of the sphere when you take the angle measurement. But that's not on this diagram, which I think is Adam's objection, right?
Yeah. Put simply, a celestial sphere does not encompass the totality of the landmass like it would on the ball. When here, it just encompasses the distance you can see. So that would be, what's it, 10,000 kilometers is roughly the furthest you're going to see from any, and that's the limitations of the sphere. But it's theoretical, isn't it? Because it's not actually a sphere, it's distance, an angle. So that's all that's been, look, because they've put the celestial equator on, and it's in the sky. Now you can't then translocate that, because this person's not translocated to the center of a ball Earth. This is literally just how your celestial sphere works for you, the observer, how it wraps around you, the observer, not the landmass.
Right, but the landmass they're depicting is a flat plane, and it must be that way to get an angle. And that's how they're depicting
you can see mountains and trees at the far end of the celestial sphere on the flat plane. Yeah, that's why they've put them on there. This is Earth that the guy is stood on. He's stood on the surface, and look, far off on that, into the distance on that flat plane are mountains. They're not obscured by any curvature. This is real, and the only sphere is the celestial sphere in this, for me anyway.
And from here, our anti-flat Earth counterparts would say, now you're not listening to how I depict this with the sphere, even though it's not necessary. It's redundant.
I've added a slide at the end of
Got it.
Clear the issue.
Yeah, put it up at the perfect timing. 10th, absolutely epic. There you go. Okay, let's go back to your second to last slide, the guy with the sextant.
Yeah, and I gotta go. Okay, so the guy with the sextant here, let me get to it on my. So you can see the guy with the sextant is his eye is going to be where the telescope is, and his eye is the vertex of the two lines meeting, and you can see a right angle there, but you can't have a right angle on the curved surface, on the curved baseline. So obviously they need that baseline, just like the description said before, and how they show it in their drawings, not ours. And then you've got an acute angle here within the right angle, which is so many degrees above the horizon. That's why you minus it from 90. I mean, this is as clear as day. Next slide. So this one here shows them depicting it not from the center, but from the surface. So you could see the observer, and you could see the observer's height of eye, and you could see that dip correction of height of eye to get it to sea level is a parallel line. I mean, those aren't parallel lines. Those are two straight lines. That's how it's working. That observer to that T and D angle to the non-existing geometric mathematical horizon, that's therefore illusion. That doesn't even pertain to an angle measurement. It's not part of it, because they're telling you height of eye is dip, and you take it down, and all of a sudden, you know, it's a flat line. It's a straight line. It's that 180 that we keep seeing.
And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Big shout out to Al Junkie for smashing the super chat. He says, watching Flatliners might cure ballers. So, yeah, you do that, ballers. Thank you very much indeed, Al Junkie, for the super chat. Massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!